And now let's prepare our hearts and minds for a time of meditation. I invite you to find a comfortable position in your seats. Close your eyes if you wish, and take a few deep breaths. And let go of any distractions or worries that may be on your mind.
Bring me back to center. Bring me back to flow. Now my soul surrenders, and peace is all I know. Peace is all I know. Peace is all I know. In this moment, I am whole, and peace is all I know. Bring me back to knowing. Peace is letting go. Love is overflowing, and peace is all I know. Peace is all I know. Peace is all I know. In this moment, I am whole, and peace is all I know. Peace is all I know.
And so it is. Just bask into this beautiful energy that we have co-created as our hearts have opened to the experience of flow and surrender. Let's imagine that we are all here holding hands in sacred communion, experiencing the presence as perfect peace. Peace as our natural state. Peace as what we really want and strive for. And here we are on a beautiful Sunday morning from different parts, physical locations, joining in peace. Coming more and more to the center. Coming more and more to the flow. Coming more and more to the space of non-resistance, of total acceptance and trust. When we're able to accomplish that, accepting what is and trusting that in whatever is, God is. And being able to be in that space guarantees our peace. So whatever we might be in resistance of, whatever we are not embracing and judging and resisting and wishing it would be otherwise, we let it all be. We surrender to the experience by simply knowing that there is no space or circumstance where God's good is not. Permitting your heart as we are holding each other here. There is no place or circumstance or person where God's good is not. And as you hold in your mind that which seems to be taking peace away from you, you enlighten with all of your power and faith into knowing that God is there. That there is a good that is looking to express itself exactly the way it is. It's meant to bless you. It's meant to teach you. We just need to come, like the song was saying. Come to that place of center, of knowing truth. Coming back to the flow that knows that there's order in everything, even when we think it's not. And as we embrace it all, peace remains. Let's hold a moment of silence just to be and experience peace as one heart, one family, one humanity, one mind, only peace.
Peace is the promise I make today. There's nothing greater for me to say than to lay down my fears, lay down unhappiness, and surrender to the peace I choose today. Peace is the gift that I give today. No easy shortcut, peace is the way. I will lay down my pride, lay down self-righteousness, and surrender to the peace I choose today. My all I give, my love for all, my all I give, my love for all. And peace is the reason we're here today. No accident, we've been called by name, called to lay down our lives, stand up for greater good, and surrender to the peace we choose today. Peace we choose today. Peace we live today. Peace today. Peace today.
The music ministry of David Trolley. Thank you, David. Yeah, that was, I love that. And Anna, so good to have you here this morning. Thank you for bringing the topic of peace in the midst of this Lenten season. It's so good to get back to peace and let go of those thoughts that don't serve us, that take us away from that peace. And I love the line in your meditation. You said, peace is our back to our natural state. Yes.
Yeah.
So good morning, Anna. Thanks for being here.
And thank you, Richard, and thank you, everyone. And David, what a beautiful musical talent you have. Um, well, greetings from San Juan, Puerto Rico. This is where I'm from. However, I lived in North Carolina for many years, and I'm relocating back. I am both Puerto Rican and North Carolinian. I've accepted that. Um, like Richard was saying, I've been around the Unity world for many, many years now, and it's my passion. I also am fully engaged in a virtual ministry. And lately, I have been doing a lot of continuing education courses, and I recently finalized a course in the Unity Institute on spirit groups. And spirit groups are really small groups for churches, in which churches have the capacity of having people come together in their own families to grow together, to pray together, and share together. And one of the few things that we were told at the very beginning of the class was something really that shocked me when the professor said that the US surgeon has recently acknowledged loneliness as a public health problem. And I don't know if you're aware that both in Japan and in England, there's a minister of loneliness. Or it has been proven that loneliness can really have effects on your both emotional and physical health. And as I was preparing for this lesson today and remembering that, I realized that being alone or being lonely is not the same thing as having a space of solitude. For I believe, and going back to today's daily word, talking about the power of silence, that one thing is to be lonely and feel abandoned and unloved or whatever. Another is to be in a space of your own sacred connection with the divine presence. And during the pandemic, I realized that we experienced both moments of loneliness and moments of solitude. And during the pandemic times, I don't know if you are aware, but so many people at some point, after having time to really reflect, and because of moments of solitude like that, even in November of 2021, a record of 4.3 million people in America quit their jobs. And they labeled that phenomenon. Somebody, professor at Texas A&M University said, called that the Great Resignation. And this is a quote from Professor Anthony. He says, during the pandemic, because there had been a lot of death and illness and lockdowns, we really have had the time and the motivation to sit back and say, do I like the trajectory of my life? And am I pursuing a life that brings me well-being? And that led to many people saying no, right? And in a way, I see it like a really a powerful, important thing to be in the space of the heart in which you really are going within and asking yourself, is it? Am I fulfilling the life that I was meant to live? And I personally believe, regarding the pandemic, that as a humanity, we could not sustain the levels of unconsciousness that we had for so long. And I believe that we were really, many of us, including myself, so maybe unbalanced from the doing and the being. And I really feel that we were all collectively forced into times of more being in which we could really go within, question, explore, discover, and maybe heal, right, from our discovery. However, I must say, and you must agree with me, that facing ourselves many times is not fun. And however, it's still very vital for our well-being. I truly believe that not having a close relationship with ourselves and our divine side can be truly detrimental. There's a quote by philosopher Blaise Pascal that says that all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. And I believe that during the times of the pandemic and the times that we just go on our own, we have that gift of really going deeper and saying, are the roles in my life what define my identity? And I realize that many of us, and I'm gonna be sharing some personal stories, experience a lot of identity crisis because when our normal routines weren't there, we just could not find ourselves. Because the more we do something or the more get used to something, the more we attach our sense of identity and well-being to that. And I believe that here I see Earth as Earth School. When we are not paying attention and the divine plan that is meant for us to accomplish is we're not really fulfilling it, life will bring the conditions and the magnifying glass so that we can see and redirect our lives. And when we look back, we go like, oh, thank God that happened, because otherwise I would have had to continue in a trend that was not meant to be the trend I was meant to be at. So recently I had, actually this last week, I had a memory in my Facebook page from the day that I think most of the people in the United States went to lockdown. And at the time I was at Unity of the Triangle in Raleigh, and we were the church that the TV station chose to come and interview us and see what we were gonna do. And I found that memory the other day, and that brought me back to that period and to what happened to me that really mark a very important spiritual point in my own process. A lot of good things happened to me in terms of ministry before we were able to take the Spanish ministry to a new level. Most of the Spanish ministries didn't have the virtual capacity, and ours did, so that really allowed our Spanish ministry to be birthed in a new level. But during that time, I had to be the death doula for a cousin of mine in Boston who called me up one day. I'm sick, and I was thinking that it was COVID, but it happened to be pancreatic cancer. And in 10 days, he passed while I was there. Another good friend of mine who was the youth director at our church, who had 5 children, passed away during that period too. And then during that period also, a very, very close friend of mine shared what was happening in her marriage. And I just saw the connection of so many of these things coming back to what the core message of my lesson today is. Well, my friend had been married for 35 years to the love of her life. Her husband was the positive, outgoing, business-like, friendly person that everybody loved in the family and friends. He was 20 years her senior, and he happened to have some issues, minor issues with memory, and they suggested to have some sort of brain procedure that was not supposed to be a big deal. However, this was during the pandemic, and he was already starting to just not feel too normal, started going a little, being sad. And when this procedure took place, he went into a depression to the point in which he had to be taken to a psychiatric hospital. And my friend, who is a very good friend of mine, but not necessarily, she's on the spiritual path the way I am, was truly in distress for the guy just didn't seem to, nothing was helping. He was just losing it. And for her, it was like, is this gonna be it for him? Is this gonna be the end of our marriage? Is there's no really way out? Everything they have tried, nothing was working. And she reaches out to me and tells me, Anna, I know you can help me. And whatever you tell me I need to do, I will do perfectly. And I was like, what? And she lives in Miami, and I said, okay, let me just hop in a plane and go and see you. But she had built this expectation that I had the formula to help her husband out and help her out to deal with her husband. And internally, I'm thinking, oh my God, there is so much in unity. There's so much that I can help her with, but she's asking for a prescription. She's asking for a specific how to do. And I remember I prayed about it and I said, Spirit, just give me whatever I'm supposed to give my friend so that she could use practical spiritual principles that I have learned through the years to help her cope with this situation and help her husband heal. So remember, I opened a drawer in my house as I was getting ready to leave for the airport, and I found this small rosary that had 7 beads that I had used for in the prayer chaplain program. And I just grabbed it and left to the plane, left for the airport, was already in the flight. And I just started meditating there, holding my beads. And essentially, I got a download of 7 steps. And this is essentially what I have called the practice of peace. Because so many times, people, especially those of us who are in ministry, so many people come to us in looking for help and specific advice. And we ministers, we tend to go, well, take it to prayer, right? And we know that prayer works. But it needed to be in a way that could help her cope with her fears, with her resistance, and all of that. And that became the formula that seemed to be what she was looking for. So, are you guys ready for the formula? Okay. 7 steps. You know, I'm broadcasting from the family business that I used to work here for 23 years. So I was exposed to a lot of selling, and there are times that I can't help but be a salesperson. And one of the things I tweaked this into, this is a new prayer technology, but it really integrates core basic unity principles in a way that you can use as a spiritual practice, okay? So I want to show you first thank God for technology. I call this the practice of peace. And the first three steps, I just want you to be aware of that has to do with becoming balanced. How many of us, especially when we have a major need and we're hurting and we're really looking for a miracle, we run and start affirming or pleading. And the very first thing I realized that I needed to help my friend with was to just get in balance. And out of the 7 steps, the 3 steps were essentially just to find that inner balance. If you notice, the first line that I have there, expanding consciousness through prayer, was the very first thing that I told her. I said, in essence, when we go into prayer, we don't go to change God or see how God can, as that anthropomorphic vision, come down here and fix my husband. In divine mind and in the spiritual realm, the solutions, the healing is already sitting there. And what we're actually going to do is really expand the consciousness level so that we can tap into what already is. But we need to start by, and of course, anything we do in unity, we start by getting quiet, by closing our eyes, and by breathing. And the very first step, breathing, is so important, and we know it. There's this Scandinavian mystic that calls breathing the portal to God. So because of time limitation, I'm not going to go deep into each step, but I'm going to just mention the basic ideas. Okay, so we get quiet, start breathing. And then we bring our attention to the center of our hearts, because normally, especially when we are worried, the thoughts and the monkey mind is really going ballistic. And you want to bring through the breath, bring your attention through the heart, because it's beyond the mind, to start just connecting with that realm that it's not at the mind level. And a technique that I use, I imagine that my heart is like the sun. There's a star and that shines just as much as the sunlight or even more. And I bring my attention there. And then I go deeper and I do a heart math technique in which essentially you're going to bring heart qualities to your experience by appreciating and love. So you start imagining somebody you love, you start appreciating somebody that you appreciate, and that's gonna really like warm your heart up. I'm gonna show you a quick video that I used that is like 2 minutes, that I would love for you to do that now to help you really bring coherence between your mind and heart, okay? So. Oops, I need to switch from here. Okay. There's going to be subtitles in Spanish, so don't pay attention.
Your coherence. Howard Martin will lead you through the quick coherence technique.
I'd like you to bring your attention and awareness to your heart, to the center of your chest. Now imagine your breath is flowing in and out through your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. Just find an easy rhythm that's comfortable. Putting your attention around the heart area helps you center and get coherent. As you continue hard-focused breathing, make a sincere attempt to experience a regenerative feeling, such as appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. Perhaps you can re-experience a time when you felt love or appreciation for a person, pet, time in nature, an accomplishment. Just breathe the attitude of love or gratitude. As you're doing this, you're increasing your coherence level. Your nervous system is synchronizing. Hormones are being released into your system that regenerates you. Signals from your heart to your brain are moving through your emotional and higher brain centers. This opens the door for you to experience more uplifting emotions and access to intuitive insight.
So
Perfect.
So you see, my main point is to be aware that during a prayer practice, any prayer practice, you really need to spend a good portion of that into bringing yourself to balance. And then once you accomplish that, you're going to start working on the co-creative part by, and I'm glad that the song today talked about surrender. The next three steps have to do with creating the conditions. But if you see, point number 4, it's accepting what is. And I know I had to give this to my friend because she felt guilty about, having encouraged her husband to do that brain procedure that really brought everything down. And I realized that if she was not able to forgive herself and accept the way have things turned out the way they were, she was not going to be able to continue opening and co-creating the good. So I gave him this affirmation, which it has always helped me when I'm seeing resistance and I'm judging myself for something, and specifically related to what I'm praying for. It says, I don't resist, for there is a good in the midst of the situation. And once you release the resistance, release the fear, because it's all coming from fear, then you can be in the space of affirming and decreeing, which was the next step. Everything, and again, gave her this affirmation, everything is organizing itself for perfect results. All is working for the highest good of all. And then now that you're calm, now that you're not judging you anymore, now that you have released fear, you can start working on affirming. And this is where unity is like masterful in giving us the affirmations, and we unite in divine mind to create the good that we are looking for. Once we get there, and if you notice, the dots are growing, because that's the more we do this, the more we go on this path, the experience of peace, it's larger and larger, because now we're balanced. Now we're accepting what is. Now we're affirming that there's good, that there's divine order, that there's nothing can separate me from that blessing. And then the sixth part, which tends to be the toughest, is when we just let it go. We are okay whether it happens or not. We are okay whether it happens in the way we were expecting it or not. We surrender. We let it be whatever it needs to be. And I have some amazing stories with each of these steps, but I'm not going to take forever. But the important thing is that and I have learned in my own life, that if we are not able to let it go and we get too attached, that's not going to help. The universe hates the energy of attachment and obsession. We need to just say, hey, I come back to center. I've done my part. And I just trust that if this is for my highest good, it's just going to happen. Which lands us to the last one, which is the grateful part that really has to do with anticipation. And I can't help but think of Jesus. How many of Jesus' miracles were took place after he thanked before the miracle? And this seventh step is not necessarily to be polite and say, hey, thank you, God, and being polite, or it's to be in that space of expectancy that nothing can ever separate me from my good. So if you notice, sorry, the practice starts by getting quiet and lands in being grateful. And that's the energy in which you stay at. Oh my God. From worry and concern and being out of peace to the energy of gratefulness. I want you to hold that with me at this time, that we are co-creators of peace when we actually have a prayer practice that integrates the balance, the silence, the heart, that gives space for release, gives space for creation, gives space for gratitude and surrender. You know what happened? They started praying together for the first time in their marriage. They would come in every single night he got out of the hospital. He recovered. There's another side to the story. I'll share it some other time. But the important thing was that it was really prayer that built their good and sustained their peace. And that's why it became a message that I've been giving around, because I know we all strive for peace in our own life in the world, but we need to create it ourselves, and we need to be reminded of these beautiful, powerful unity principles that when we actually practice them can transform our life forever. So I want to thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for holding and sharing sacred space with me. Our group here, we're meditating and sending light and energy to all of you. And you have a magnificent rest of the day. God bless. And so it is.